Alright. Hi everybody, and welcome to the monthly mini review. Oh, what a serendipitous day it is. We're talking about Experiment. But before we begin, before anything else, I should really warn you, Experiment is a very unique level, and in order to get the full experience, you should really go into that level blind. If you haven't seen it yet, if you haven't played it yet, I encourage you to do that right now before watching this video, because this level is very vulnerable to spoilers. And while I've got you here, you should also play Outer Wilds. Anyway, with that spoiler warning out of the way, let's talk about it, shall we? So when you start up Experiment, you quickly get stuck in this loop of the same few jump rings over and over, with the song looping in the background. And as you go through this loop, slowly but surely you will realize that something is not quite right here. You know, maybe you'll start looking around and trying some things, poking at the edges of the level, as it were. Eventually, you will notice this gap in the floor, and maybe you'll try to, jump in, because what else is there really to do? And when you get to that point, that's when the level really opens up, revealing its true nature. And it gives you this sense of discovery. It is the moment that reveals to the player that this level is not what it seems on the surface. This is a puzzle level. And while there have been a bunch of platformer puzzle levels, probably. I honestly haven't been keeping track of them at all, but the few I have played don't really come close to this level in how well it's put together, Because in platformer levels, what usually tends to be the case is that people make custom puzzles with custom objects, so each platformer puzzle level has its own internal logic, but Experiment just uses the game mechanics of Geometry Dash itself, The various jump rings and obstacles are everything that is presented to you, and it's your job to figure out how to utilize those to your advantage, for the most part. I do have some complaints, like the jump ring part where you're supposed to hit a bunch of different colored jump rings in a row. The first time I came there, I didn't see the hint in the previous part, and the hint doesn't ever show up in the respective part where it would actually be useful, so I just completed it by trial and error, it's not the most satisfying puzzle of this level, to say the least. I like that part the least, to be honest. But other than that, these puzzles are really clever. I'm honestly also not sure how to feel about the ending segments, where you just kind of have normal gameplay, because if you die there, you just have to do all the puzzles over again, even though, you've already done them, right? I have to also, of course, bring up how this level ends, because when you get to the end of the level, it starts looping with seemingly no way out, and this is probably my favorite part of the level, honestly. The level is all about loops and finding ways to break the cycle, so the only thing that's really left to do at this point is to restart the level, and that will, of course, take you right to the end. That's a really cool meta puzzle, making you think about the level in its entirety as a puzzle unto itself. I just really like that. It stimulates my brain in just the right way, While the gameplay is definitely the central focus and draw of this level, I would be remiss not to mention the presentation as well, and how it nicely ties together the whole experience with its laboratory aesthetic. It's a nice touch. But yeah, it's really cool how this level pushes at the confines of what we understand Geometry Dash levels to be, in a way that complements the game really well. Because usually when people do this, when people try to reinvent Geometry Dash, they do it in a way that pushes against the game's design and its mechanics. But this level does it in a way that works in tandem with them, and I think that's really admirable. That's something I would like to see a lot more of. But these levels don't come around that often. It is pretty difficult to conceptualize and execute something like this, so I have a lot of respect for that. I think this is definitely going to be a level with a lasting legacy, and I think that's basically everything I want to say about this level. Special shoutouts to my grandpa demons on Patreon, Belfry Clock, Crone44, Bafer, and Sir Lethbridge Stewart. Thank you very much for your support, and see you next time, everybody. Bye-bye.